For over a month, the US has been hitting the Houthis in Yemen again and again with an overwhelming series of daily airstrikes. But the past 24 hours have been a turning point. Where previous strikes have killed Houthi leaders and damaged the militant group, the most recent attack has just brought the Houthis to their knees. The US has just taken out one of the most important ports under the Houthis' control, delivering a devastating blow that may sound the death knell for the Iran-backed proxy. The news comes from US Central Command, or CENTCOM, which issued a statement on April 17 telling the world that a major airstrike had just taken out the Ras Isa port. The statement marks the first time that the US military has provided any details about one of its targets in an official report. All claims made prior about the US airstrikes have either come from members of US President Donald Trump's administration or the Houthis themselves. CENTCOM didn't provide many details about the strike. No images have been released officially by the US military, with CENTCOM also not revealing any specific details about the full scale or scope of April 17's airstrikes. However, we get some hints from its statement, in addition to the reasons why the US targeted this vital port. The CENTCOM statement explains that the Houthis have continued to benefit economically and militarily from countries and companies that provide material support to a designated foreign terrorist organization. It's not wrong. Iran is the Houthis' chief supporter. The Council on Foreign Relations says that weapons shipments and training are regularly provided to the militant group by Iran. For instance, it notes that late January 2024 saw the US interceptor ship bound for Yemen, and possibly the Ras Isa port, containing drone parts, anti-tank units, and missile warheads from Iran that the Houthis likely intended to use in their Red Sea campaign. That connection to Iran, the Council says, provides the Houthis with access to more sophisticated weaponry than it could gain on its own. In return, the Houthis help Iran cause chaos and gain influence in the Gulf region, both through its attacks on Red Sea shipping and by causing issues around Yemen's border with Saudi Arabia. And it's not just Iran that's supporting the Houthis. China is also complicit, though it's less direct in its support. As the Atlantic Council points out, China willingly sells dual-use components to the Houthis. These components, which have both commercial and military purposes, can legally be sold while providing China with plausible deniability about how the Houthis intend to use them. China is just the seller, it can say. It's not Beijing's fault if the Houthis use those components to build drones used to attack ships. China also indirectly aids the Houthis by purchasing 90% of Iran's exports at a time when Iran is under heavy sanctions. Those purchases include oil, which is illegal to buy from Iran, and they pour billions of dollars per year into a country that can then use that money to support the Houthis. Add the recent controversy about a Chinese satellite company providing intelligence and images of US warships to the Houthis, and you have another clear link. Both Iran and China deliver goods and work together to support the Houthis in Yemen. With Ras Isa destroyed, they have one less avenue through which to do so. The CENTCOM statement continues, "The Iran-backed Houthis use fuel to sustain their military operations as a weapon of control and to benefit economically from embezzling the profits from the import. This fuel should be legitimately supplied to the people of Yemen. Despite the foreign terrorist designation that went into effect on 5 April, ships have continued to supply fuel via the port of Ras Isa. Profits from these illegal sales are directly funding and sustaining Houthi terrorist efforts." Once again, there are implications about other countries providing resources to the Houthis when they shouldn't be. However, it's the mentions of the militant group profiteering from incoming fuel that are especially noteworthy in the statement. In November 2024, both the Maritime Executive and the Global Trade Review highlighted how the Houthis use racketeering and similar practices to make what experts say are billions of dollars per year. Both released some of the results of a United Nations report compiled by a panel of experts that offered 500 pages of descriptions about how the Houthis profiteer in the Red Sea. For instance, the group charges illegal transit fees to ships traveling through the Red Sea. Those fees offer a guarantee. If they're paid, the ship's owners don't have to worry about becoming one of the latest victims of a Houthi attack. The tactic works well for the militant group. The sources estimate the Houthis' earnings from these illegal safe transit fees to be about $180 million per month, the report claims. Multiply that by 12 and you get around $2.16 billion. Global Trade Review adds that these payments are made via something called hawala networks, which are informal mechanisms for transferring money that lie outside of the mechanisms typically used in global trade. Failing that, the Houthis will use money laundering and trade-based schemes to get their hands on the cash, along with fake telecommunications equipment trades. All of these are smokescreens for a ring of extortion the Houthis use to profiteer from fuel flowing through the Red Sea and in many cases into the Ras Isa port. Furthermore, CENTCOM seems to be implying that the Houthis take control over the fuel that arrives in Yemen via Ras Isa, allowing the group to distribute that fuel as it sees fit. What does that mean for the people of Yemen? Any fuel arriving into their country goes towards serving the Houthis' needs first, with the rest placed in storage or sparsely distributed to the broader population. After establishing the reasons behind the airstrike, the CENTCOM report provides a small amount of detail about what the US actually did. Today, US forces took action to eliminate this source of fuel for the Iran-backed Houthi terrorists and deprive them of illegal revenue that has funded Houthi efforts to terrorize the entire region for over 10 years. Over 10 years indicates just how long the regular people in Yemen have been surviving under partial Houthi rule. The entire crisis began in the wake of the civil war that racked Yemen during the mid-1990s. By 2004, Yemen's government started arresting Houthi members, imprisoning hundreds in the group while offering rewards for the capture or killing of its members. But that didn't work. Fighting between the Houthis and Yemen's government intensified throughout the 2000s, only broken by occasional ceasefires and peace discussions. Then came 2014 and the aftermath of the Arab Spring. With Yemen in disarray, the Houthis took control over the majority of the country's capital city of Sana'a and its vital port city of Hodeidah. Multiple attempts to remove them have been made since. In the late 2010s and into the 2020s, for instance, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates on a campaign to eliminate the Houthis, like the Yemeni government's efforts in 2004, that campaign failed. The militant group proved far more powerful and resilient than its enemies anticipated. Houthi rule has been terrible for the Yemeni people. Beyond the control over fuel, along with the group's profiteering, the Houthis currently run roughshod in a country that's in the depth of a crisis. Food insecurity in Yemen is at an all-time high, with 18 million of its people, accounting for more than half of its population, not having enough food. The war in Yemen, which the Houthis played a major part in elevating, has killed an estimated 377,000 people, with around 150,000 of those deaths coming as a direct result of armed conflict. Landmines, suicide bombings, shootings, and similar forms of armed violence are all too common in Yemen, with those tools being used both by the Houthis and the groups that oppose them. The reality for Yemen's people is simple. The Houthis lie at the heart of many of their troubles. The CENTCOM statement continues, the objective of these strikes was to degrade the economic source of power of the Houthis, who continue to exploit and bring great pain among their fellow countrymen. This strike was not intended to harm the people of Yemen, who rightly want to throw off the yoke of Houthi subjugation and live peacefully. In other words, the US wants any Yemeni people who aren't aligned with the Houthis to know that it's on their side. That may be a difficult argument to make when Yemen is being racked by airstrikes. However, as the concluding words of the CENTCOM statement reveal, the US feels this is a small sacrifice to make to send a message. The Houthis, their Iranian masters, and those who knowingly aid and abet their terrorist actions should be put on notice that the world will not accept illicit smuggling of fuel and war material to a terrorist organization. Translation: Iran and China need to pay attention because the US has just demonstrated that it will do everything it can to decimate the groups that they illegally support. All of this leads back to a key question. What did the US actually achieve with its most recent airstrike? All we know for certain from CENTCOM is that the strike attacked Ras Isa and the objectives behind the airstrike. Other resources, including The Guardian and The War Zone, or TWZ, offer more details about what the US did. According to The Guardian, the Ras Isa strike was part of a series that took place on April 17. Those strikes combined to form the most intense day of US attacks in Yemen since Trump began his bombing campaign on March 15. The Houthi-run state media in Yemen reported varying casualty figures from the April 17th US airstrike on the Ras Isa oil port, with deaths ranging from 38 to 74 and injuries ranging from 102 to 171. As is always the case with these Houthi-backed reports, there's no word from the group about whether any of those killed are Houthi militants. That's by design. By only sharing the numbers, the Houthis hope to manipulate public perception into believing that the US strikes only target civilians. To reinforce these propaganda attempts, the Houthi-operated Al Jazeera satellite news channel aired graphic footage of what it claims to be the aftermath of the airstrike. That footage included images of corpses thrown across the Ras Isa site, supposedly including the bodies of civilian workers and paramedics who were at the vital port. What the Houthis didn't share are the pictures and videos being released to social media. TWZ provides a roundup of some of this type of footage. One clip, published to X by the Basha Report profile, shows around 20 seconds of video of what's to believe an oil storage facility at Ras Isa going up in flames. Smoke billows into the air as a massive fire seems to engulf the storage facility. About 10 seconds into the clip, the camera person turns around just in time to catch what appears to be another US missile or bomb striking its target. A flash of burning light fills the screen as a massive explosion occurs in the distance. The sound of an explosion follows soon after, with a flash of light dissipating to show what appears almost to be a small mushroom cloud forming. Of course, this wasn't a nuclear strike, but the sheer scale of the explosion showcases the level of firepower the US is bringing to its airstrikes against the Houthis, along with the destructive force that firepower can deliver when it strikes a flammable target. More footage, this time shared by Eland News to X, showcases a similar scene. This footage was likely shot on the same site from a different angle. To the left of the shot appears to be the burning wreckage of an oil storage unit on one side of Ras Isa. The camera then pans to the right, where flames explode into the air, likely as a result of the second strike also seen in the Bash Report video. If there's one thing that can be concluded from this footage, it's that Ras Isa is now in flames. Everything else, from the Houthi-provided death toll and information about what, if any, ships the US took out on April 17, is still to be determined. So this leads to another question: why Ras Isa? Some answers are apparent in CENTCOM's statement. Ras Isa is one of the main ports through which the Houthis funnel fuel to help bolster their coffers, though CENTCOM doesn't reveal just how the port helps the Houthis to do it. That information comes from Unwaj Media, which reported in August 2024 that Ras Isa is one of the main ports in the previously mentioned city of Houthi. At that port, the Houthis maintain a massive fuel storage facility capable of holding over 49,500 metric tons of fuel. That's not all. In 2023, the Houthis retrofitted that storage facility so that it was capable of holding liquefied petroleum gas. All told, Ras Isa serves as a major hub for fuel imports into Yemen, with substantial storage utilized by the Houthis. The US's April 17 strike on Ras Isa is also far from the first time the port has been targeted by airstrikes. Israel has also taken multiple shots at the Houthi-run port. One of those attempted strikes came in July 2024, leading to the Unwaj report that revealed just how important Ras Isa is to the Houthis. It was an effective attack. Ras Isa was capable of storing nearly 50,000 tons of fuel. Before Israel's July 2024 assault, the number was closer to 100,000 metric tons. Satellite images revealed in the aftermath of the strike show that Israel succeeded in damaging the vast majority of the storage facilities at Houthi, leading to some observers at the time writing off the entire Ras Isa facility. We know now that writing the port off was premature. Still, Israel's targeting of the port shows that it and the US have long understood the strategic significance it plays in propping up the Houthi regime. More Israeli strikes followed the July 2024 attack in September, with this one killing at least 4 people, including a trio of electrical engineers and a port worker, and wounding at least 29 others. Israel also succeeded in causing power outages in several parts of Houthi, though as in July, it failed at taking Ras Isa out of commission permanently. Fast forward to January 2025, and there was another round of Israeli strikes targeting Houthi and Ras Isa. This time, Israel used its F-16s to conduct a series of bombing runs over the site, taking out military infrastructure and leaving the port ablaze. So, thanks to Israel, Ras Isa was already in a weakened state before this most recent US airstrike. Israel softened the port up. The US may have just delivered the killing blow. That's not yet confirmed for sure. Ras Isa has survived several attacks in the past. However, if the footage being shared from the port is any indication, what's happening there now has resulted in what was left of its fuel storage facilities going up in flames. Plus, what the US has that Israel doesn't have is the ability to follow up in several ways. If Ras Isa has somehow survived, there's now nothing stopping the US from hitting it with another strike to take out the remnants of the port. Plus, America's attack has sent a warning to any country or company sending fuel to the Houthis via the port: sail into Ras Isa at your peril, because you never know when a bomb or missile is going to drop. Even if the port has survived, the fact that many ships will now want to avoid sailing into it is just as damaging to the Houthis. So what happens next? Right now, the answer seems likely to be yet more strikes. That's what US Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth promised when the US started its airstrike campaign against the Houthis. He claimed that the campaign would be unrelenting until the Houthis ceased their attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea. Those attacks haven't stopped. If anything, the Houthis remain defiant even under the massive pressure under which they're being placed. The situation seems to be that the Houthis won't stop their Red Sea campaign until the US halts its airstrikes. Given that those strikes won't stop until the Houthis leave the Red Sea alone, all that's left is the assumption that today, tomorrow and every day until the Houthis give up or are destroyed, we'll see the US pelt Yemen with bombs. The US is likely fine with that. Ras Isa shows that its demonstration of overwhelming force is working. And to make matters worse for the Houthis, yesterday's airstrike isn't the only method the US has used to cut the knees off the Houthis financially. It's also unleashed one of the other powerful tools in its arsenal: sanctions. Also, on April 17, the US announced a new set of sanctions against the International Bank of Yemen, or IBY. Why? The US says that's the bank the Houthis and Iran use to transfer money, claiming that the bank's key leaders are Houthi supporters. US Deputy Treasury Secretary Michael Falkender explained, saying, "Financial institutions like IBY are critical to the Houthis' efforts to access the international financial system and threaten both the region and international commerce." These sanctions were the first jab the US unleashed against the Houthis on April 17. The strike against Ras Isa was the knockout blow. In 24 hours, the US has taken out one of the Houthis' main sources of revenue and heavily restricted the bank it uses to launder and utilize the money it made from that source. What's left for the Houthis? Financial ruin, as it faces a future filled with more airstrikes designed to destroy the militant group once and for all. But what do you think about the US airstrikes in Ras Isa? Has the United States just landed the killer blow against the Houthis? Is it possible that the militant group could recover? What does this mean for Yemen's future? Tell us your thoughts in the comments, and remember to subscribe to The Military Show for more commentary on the latest developments in the Middle East. We're an independent source of news and information about military conflicts around the world and greatly appreciate your support.